My name is Bill Butler, Chief of Staff at the National Veterans Memorial and Museum. Welcome to our October Rally Point. Today we're going to meet with Tim Funk, a Marine veteran, and he's also one of the co-founders and runs the Stockhands Horses for Healing program here in Delaware County, Ohio. And we want to highlight a great program that uses horses as a tool to help veterans, first responders, and others who are struggling with life and challenges. And so, Tim, if you can introduce yourself, give us a little bit of your background.
I'm Tim Funk. I am a Marine Corps veteran, 92 to 96. Got to hop around the world a little bit, enjoying that. I born and raised here in Delaware, Ohio. We opened our doors here at Stockhands 8 years ago, and it's been kind of a blessing ever since. Non-stop, a lot of fun, a lot of struggle along the way, but it's nice to see things come together.
So what was the impetus to start Stockhands?
So years ago, I had a friend of the family member who was son was autistic, and at that time I knew absolutely nothing about autism. They wanted to come out and ride one of our horses. I'm like, well, sure, bring him out. She said, well, he doesn't talk and you can't touch him. I'm like, well, okay, that's fine. I can work with that. So the young man came out, and I had the perfect horse lined up for him, but my daughter ended up taking that horse trail riding that morning, and I was stuck with her barrel horse, which this horse was a hothead. He is an appendix quarter horse. Anytime he's in an open arena, all he wants to go is go, 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 go. Kind of like a Marine on liberty. So that kind of attitude as well. So I thought this was going to be a terrible train wreck for this young man, but we brought the horse out. I rode the horse a little bit before he got there. He jumped on the horse. We walked around for 10-15 minutes, and he's about 10 or 12 years old. And the things that really started that I noticed right off was the horse. You know, the horse who normally would run around with his head high up in the air, snorting and blowing, kind of hung his head like he was an old show horse, and every time the young man would shift his weight in the saddle, the horse would stop and kind of turn and look back at it. So we did that for 10-15 minutes, and I finally asked the young man if he was done riding. He shook his head yes, popped off the horse, hit his feet, hit his butt, back up to his feet. I'm like, okay. And then about that time, my daughter came back around, and I passed the horse back off, the horse we were riding back off to her, and he went back to snorting and blowing his normal self. And then our pasture gate was about 50 yards from where we were at, and where his mother was watching us. As we were walking towards the gate, he reached down and held my hand.
Okay.
And as he held my hand, when we got to the gate, Mom's crying.
Right.
And I'm like, you know, he's fine. There's nothing wrong. It wasn't until later on that night I found out that he doesn't hold his mother's hand. He doesn't hold his father's hand.
Oh, my God.
So I talked to another friend whose son or his nephew was autistic, and I said, hey, can you bring your kid out? I'd like to see this is what I experienced, the same changes. But what really sealed the deal for me was I was shoeing horses, putting shoes on their feet at a barn in Pataskala, and I had this guy walks into the barn, and he was a Marine, just got back from Afghanistan, met some girl online and was supposed to meet her here at the barn, and he was watching me shoe these horses, and he's like, man, I'd like to do that. I'm like, okay. So he asked if he could ride with me for a week, so he rode in the truck with me. We talked about everything there was to talk about in the Marine Corps. You know, the chow, basic, you know, this, that, and the other. Never talked about any deployments or anything else like that. Every morning, though, you could smell it on him every time he got in the truck. We had some anger issues. If someone cut us off, he's leaning out the window, kind of giving greetings and salutations and all that good stuff. And it came down to, we were at one of my largest customers, and I was having him pull nails out of an old horseshoe. And something happened, he pinched his finger, and he just totally lost it. He threw the world's largest temper tantrum, tools and things flying everywhere, and I got relieved of that client.
Right.
So that night, I was going to tell him, hey, I think it's time we part ways. And he goes, can we go for a trail ride? I'm like, you've never been on a horse? He goes, yeah, I know, but can we just go? So I'm like, sure. So we saddled up a couple horses and we went trail riding. And we're going down the trail, and he goes, can we try? I'm like, sure. So we're trotting. He's up there flopping around like a fish out of water. He goes, "Can we gallop?" I'm like, "Hell no."
Right. And, yeah.
But I talked him through. I said, "We can pick up another gear," and I talked him through how to do that. So it was like a scene out of the movie. We pull up in this meadow. The sun's going down, and he's over there grinning like a jackass eating thistles. Just the biggest smile I've ever seen. And then
Right.
he just starts to cry.
Okay.
He starts to break down. In the next hour, we talked about everything from his deployments, his loss of faith, the guilt, the embarrassment, everything that he had going through what he experienced on deployment that he couldn't and wouldn't talk to anybody else about. Something on that horse made him feel comfortable enough to tell those stories. And that's when I'm like, all right, this is my calling. This is what I need to do. So that's kind of how we got our start.
You find your passion in life.
Right.
So what are some of the programs that you all run here at Stockhands?
Currently, we have all kinds of programs. We have our veterans program. Naturally, is one of the ones I'm most passionate about. We also have a first responders program. We have a peer support program through mental health. We've partnered with Safe Harbor and Southeast Mental Health on those to help those who have suffering from other mental health issues. We have an addiction recovery group. We also have our riding program, which we work with children and adults from age 4 to, well, whatever. As long as they can sit a horse or drive a carriage, we work with them. We also have a literacy program where we have a Read to the Horses event on the second Saturday of every month, where we invite the public to come in and they sit and read to horses, and whether they're 8 or 80, they're coming through the door to do that.
Right. And then, so for the veteran, the first responder program, what exactly does that entail, or what opportunities are
So what those opportunities are, we meet as a group, collectively as a group, like we are tonight. On veterans is the first and third at 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. The first responders are the second and fourth. A lot of veterans, when they first start wanting to come, they don't come to the big group. They say, "Hey, can I come in and just check things out?" And we allow them to do that. And that's kind of them opening up the door and saying, "Hey, I do have some problems. I don't know if I want to broadcast it in front of everybody just yet." So I started working with those veterans throughout the day and on other days that we don't have a group, and just teach basic horsemanship, things like that. But while we're doing that, we're opening up, we're engaging in different emotions and feelings and stuff that we don't normally feel comfortable in.
Right.
And all that's, if you and I were sitting there grooming on a horse, I'm on one side, you're on the other side, it's something calming about the horse that they're able to start talking about some of their issues. Now, we are not the therapist, the horse is the therapist. But when they come through here and we start talking with them and they say, "Hey, I'm struggling with this," or "I'm struggling with that," we say, "Okay, have you looked into Veteran Service Office? Have you looked into the vet center? Who are you seeing at the VA? Or you're not seeing any at the VA? We'll help you get there and get that started." So that's where that really kind of works.
And then, so how does a veteran find out about the program to take advantage of it?
A lot of it is word of mouth. We do have a veterans Facebook page. We have our normal Stockhands Horses for Healing Facebook page and our web page. And the veterans, there's no charge for services whatsoever. And once the veterans start coming in, they're comfortable with, I have like 12 veterans that come in that they just say, hey, how you doing? I'm going to go do this. And they saddle their own horses, they ride their own horses, they do it all on their own. And that's what we're wanting them to do. We're not wanting to box them in and, "Hey, I want you to talk to me every time." I want you to feel comfortable here, gain confidence in your skills, and all that good stuff.
And then the veterans that do come, is there a difference in eras of service or
there
combat,
is.
peacetime veterans?
Our oldest veteran that we have coming out is a Korean War veteran, and we haven't seen him in a couple months, but we have Vietnam up to current day. And it's kind of fun to hear the banter back and forth between the branches, but not only between the branches, but between the older veterans and the
Right,
younger
right.
veterans. Oh, you sissy.
Right.
Much harder when I went through
Right.
times today, so it was a good time.
And then what about men and women?
We do not, excuse me, women are welcome as well as men. Combat versus non-combat, you sign the paper, you belong here. And that's kind of where we're at. We're all trying to make sure that everyone's welcome.
Sure.
We support one another just like we do in the
Right.
field or when we're in.
Right.
So,
Exactly. Now, if let's say this is going to air on our Facebook page, so it'll people from across the country will see
Okay.
it. Are there other resources not in Delaware if somebody's in another state?
There is.
on how they can find a similar program.
There's several therapeutic riding centers in Central Ohio and throughout the United States that offer veterans programs. We're actually helping one get started in Pataska called Heart of a Warrior. We're trying to help them. We've got 3 veterans that have been with us for 5-6 years that live out there. They're a therapeutic barn trying to start, and so we're trying to transplant our veterans over there to help get the seed started to create a veterans program there.
That's right.
You can look on Path International. They will list some veteran sites or centers that do treatment for veterans and stuff like that. What makes us a little different from a lot of the other veteran centers is we're not running a structured lesson program. When you're coming through our door, I'm not how you feel. We are not doing that. We're welcoming you as one of our brothers or sisters to come in and just for the camaraderie, be a part of us. The healing and all that happens through the camaraderie and the horses.
And then, if you wouldn't mind, could you tell us just a little bit about your transition? So you left service in '96.
I left transition in 1996. I went into the Marine Corps somewhat through the court system. I had a DUI and an assault and battery charge, and I had a wonderful judge in Delaware County at the time who said, "Hey, son, there are other options out there for you. I cannot tell you what those are, but I know there's some around that." So he kind of hinted around if I went into the military that I might be able to get less of a sentence of my other stuff. So that's what I did. I went into the Marine Corps. Came out of the Marine Corps. I was struggling a lot, just trying. Life moved on. It should have stayed right where I left it, but life moved on and everything changed. And I was married at the time. I was still trying to adjust to civilian life. It took a toll on my marriage. I would drown myself in the bottom of a bottle and look for the answers, and I got another DUI. And I was like, okay. I stopped drinking for a hot minute, still battling whatever my feelings were and emotions and trying to figure out where I belonged. I bounced around from a couple different jobs, and I got another DUI. So it wasn't till that I decided that I wanted to get back into horses, because when I got out of the Marine Corps, I was supposed to go to Kentucky School of Horseshoeing, and at the time, my wife said, "Well, you have to get a real job because I'm pregnant." So I had to, kind of set that aside. So I got back into horses. I started shoeing horses again. Then I got a horse, and I got this horse it was kind of a Hail Mary pass trying to get my wife back. We separated several different times, and most of it was due to my drinking and my lack of communication, not telling her how I felt or why I felt that I needed to drink or what my issues were. So I ended up getting this horse, and excuse me.
That's all good. We've all been there.
So I got this horse and I started working it, and I'm like, this thing's not listening to me. It's not doing what I want. I tried forcing things and stuff, and then I just sat back and waited. I sat in the field one night with this horse and just waited. The horse started coming to me. I started to relax and I started to breathe. Started realizing that everything that I was feeling and the emotions and the frustrations, that horse was picking up on. So once I started to gather in my emotions and the riding came better with the horse started moving better, and then I started evaluating my emotions and feelings that I don't like to share, because no one wants to sit and feel those emotions, because that's not who we are. I'm a Marine. I don't do that. But through that, I started being able to understand my emotions, working with the participants that I'm working with. It's allowed me to really sit in my emotions and see that, if this horse can help me, it can help them.
Right.
And I'm coming to grips with all the bad things and all the good things I've done, and through service. And I think that's what a lot of our veterans who come through this program, they ended up staying. They ended up staying as a volunteer, or wanting to show, or hey, I want to get back in. I want to be on horses. I want to own a horse, and things like that.
And so, Stockhands Horses for Healing is an unfunded nonprofit.
Correct.
So, how do you guys get your operating?
So we beg a lot. We do get some funds through Delaware County Board of Developmental Disabilities for our riding program. The Delaware County VSO just started sponsoring our Veterans Night, so we're getting a little income for that. Most of it is we write for grants, try to get grants. We have a lot of fundraisers and stuff. So some of our day programs are starting to generate income through grants, through our community partnerships with Safe Harbor and Southeast. But operating costs for this facility is close to $300,000 for the year.
Right.
So, and our payroll is under $50,000 for all the staff that we have right now, which we're working on changing.
Right.
So
it's a labor of love, and you've got to have some passionate supporters.
we do. We have a great group of volunteers. We have a great group of veterans that, on a moment's notice, hey, we know someone down the road's having issues. Hey, do you guys want to come over and help them? Like, they're right there. And a lot of it is, hey, we want the opportunity to serve again. We want to be a part of something. And right here is where we feel like we're a part of something.
And then the association that you all have with the Veterans Courts. Can you talk about that just a
Yep.
little bit?
I'm a mentor for the Delaware County Veterans Court. And most of the folks that are on this court docket are either OVI, DUI, drugs, addiction, and even anger management. We have a couple of those. So when they come through the docket, it's not a slap on the wrist. They're not really getting reduced sentences or anything else like that. But there is a little bit more leniency. But they have to make their VA. If they're not involved with the VA, they have to get enrolled with the VA. They have to have some alcohol or drug assessments. They have to go through the VA and do everything that they need to. As a mentor, we are there to help guide them through that process, and a lot of it is just to sit and listen to what they're going through. Try to help them through whatever the process is to get there, and to give them opportunities to succeed, whether it's here, whether it's at the MASH pantry, or volunteering somewhere else. And just like you're back in the service, you take care of each other.
It's like being a platoon sergeant or
Exactly.
SWAT leader, making sure your guys and gals are doing the right thing, being at the right place at the right time.
Exactly. And the success rate with the docket is pretty amazing. I still keep in touch with everyone that I've mentored. All of them are doing well. Everyone that I've had is alcohol related. So it was good because I could definitely relate. I really wish that when I was going through my DUI phase, that there was something like that.
Right.
Maybe it would only take, the first one, that's it. But after the second one, if there was a program like the docket, there wouldn't have been a third one.
Right.
There had been a way for me to move on through the system and start taking care of the mental health issues that I have.
My name is Nick Sanctus. I was in the Ohio Army National Guard. I did 3 tours. My first one was into Afghanistan. The second 2 were with the Logistics Brigade in Kuwait. Currently, I am active both in Stockhands, and my role, my full-time job, is with the Delaware Municipal Court. So my role there is as the Veteran Mentor Coordinator. And so the reason why our docket is successful, we have a 98% effective rate. If you would compare this to the national recidivism rate, over a 4-year term, it's about 76%. 2/3 are likely to reoffend. And so the reason why our docket is successful is because of programs from the community that we can go out and draw from for the mentors to be able to be there alongside the veteran and say, hey, look, I served too. I did these things. Can you just meet us halfway? We care about you. The judge cares about you. This whole community is here for you. And it's really that community that makes this whole thing function. And so if essentially our court is outsourcing a lot of that need to be filled by people like Tim Funk and organizations like Stockhands, who not just create a space for demographics like our veterans that are participants in the court, but also women, any kind of tangential trauma, children with developmental disabilities, and first responders. So spaces like this that we can come to in terms of a facility to just get out of the court and have a change of location to kind of reduce that type of awe when you're in a prestigious courtroom. It's intimidating. To sit there, to be in the hot seat, and have a judge staring at you. That's not our model. We have our mentors partnering with the participant to both say, okay, well, what are you going through right now? Like, what is it? And validate that experience and say, okay, well, how can we help you? What can we do? Can you work with us? Can you try some of these things? And so it's a lot about trying to redefine masculinity and to try to reduce the stigma of pursuing mental health. I didn't even pursue VA benefits. I was out of the military. I was at Ohio State. This docket was going on. I became a volunteer mentor. I didn't even get my benefits until year 2 of me volunteering. I didn't even pursue mental health treatment until year 3 of being in this court as a volunteer. So people like Tim, if we didn't have a Tim Funk, I don't think we'd be as effective. So we've had 2% reoffend in the last 4 years. We're hitting our longevity for efficacy there. And Tim has mentored about 8 of our 24 graduates thus far. And being able to have both a space and somebody who's been through the motions before, understand what's to come, and be able to say, this is really anxiety inducing, but we want to keep you out of jail. We want to get you education. We want to get you housing secured. We want to get you a job. So we bring a community together, and people like Tim really create that backbone. It's remarkable. It really is remarkable that he's able to find the time to be able to do this kind of thing, to be able to host Alcoholics Anonymous here, and it's anonymous, to be able to have 3 days a week for children with developmental disabilities, to have 2 nights a week for women, to have 2 nights a month for first responders and 2 nights a month for veterans, to have a space where you're not going to be looking over your shoulder and thinking, oh God, I can't say that in front of that person. My dark humor is going to get the best of me, and I'm going to be in trouble in society now. To be able to have other people go, I get it, I've been there. And spaces like Stockhands, if I didn't have this, I don't think our court would be successful.
So are there other similar programs to Stockhands that are supported by the Delaware County Municipal Court?
So I want to switch that around. There are other programs that support the Delaware County Municipal Court.
Okay.
And We have an entire treatment team of people that volunteer their time, come out on a busy Friday night and fight that rush hour 3:15 traffic,
Right.
get to Delaware from Columbus proper, either from the Veterans Justice Outreach Coordinator with the VA. We had the Ohio Means Jobs apprenticeship director come in, and we were able to get a guy on our court in apprenticeship with the pipe fitters and plumbers union. And so we have a treatment team that the judge relies on to be able to make an informed decision, to get her the most informed information, to be able to say, okay, well, this person is or is not cooperating, or they're going through this right now, and that needs to be taken into consideration. So Stockhands, Match Pantry, we have SAMHSA, we have the Delaware Suicide Prevention Coalition, we have a number of people that are in this community that, because of people like Tim and some of the graduates who have remained in this community that want to keep helping, not just because they see how it works for them, they want it to be for somebody else, but it sustains us.
Right.
Being able to get up and do something of service, it's subtractive. It's not about me in that instance. And so then I can just get over that trauma that I experienced in that moment. It never goes away, but it just gets easier. You can't get rid of that moment in time. You can't get rid of that sustained whatever itness is. Organizations like Save a Warrior, organizations like RWB, or we've had the American Legion, VFW, we've had a number of entities that have pledged their support to make sure that veterans have a fighting chance.
So we moved here about 3.5 years ago, and from out of the state, and I've always heard Delaware County Veteran Court talked about and discussed as a program, a formal program supporting veterans. But I haven't heard of any of the other 4 counties around Franklin County or Columbus is that have similar programs. Is that just because they're not talking about it, or do they not have programs, or all the counties do and they're just as effective?
Well, how do you get the prettiest woman in the world? Volume. So we just have a lot of great advocates that are getting out and saying, hey, look at this. It's the squeaky wheel that gets the grease. There are 27 veterans treatment courts, special dockets in Ohio. Delaware is just one among them, and there's no right way to do it. So the communities that come together, the healing takes place in the community, not with a clinic. And I'm speaking for myself here. Going to therapy, doing these things, maybe it doesn't work. I'm thinking. So having you be able to partner with me and say, hey Nick, I've been there, I too served. What can we do to help you? I'm here for you, I care about you. What do you need? What can we get you? If it's a job, if it's a suit, if it's a networking experience, if it's being able to get an apprenticeship or have your resume reviewed by Job and Family Services. We have a wonderful member of our treatment team who has given a number of us, myself included, some resume review tips, and just making sure that you're competitive, to be able to understand how you are competitive as a veteran, the unique experiences that you have. Typically you hear, I'm either a disgruntled veteran or I'm exceptional. Does that sound familiar? And so we like to try to remind people, hey look, this is just a moment in time, this is just a blip, and you're going to overcome it. Don't let this be the end of you.
Don't let it define you.
Do you all have the resources that you need to continue the work that you're trying to do?
I want to tell you yes, but I know the answer is no, so we keep them coming. We don't want to shut off that spigot. It's truly remarkable. If we take a snapshot in time to the Vietnam era, we've had a number of Vietnam veterans that have been just resolute, just committed, and always present in our docket to be able to support us, to be able to say, hey, we have this opportunity to come out on this day, to be able to sit there with us in court and be able to say, when we went through this experience, we're not going to let this happen to you. And so we can never have enough resources. And I'm proud of this docket. I've seen and I've talked with a lot of the mentors from Ohio. We get together in a round table, we talk, the coordinators will get together and share, best tips and practices and TTPs, and it's like a little mini call. So I think organizations like the National Veterans Memorial and Museum, being able to have an opportunity, like the forum that you're presenting here, to be able to advocate for these things, it just needs volume.
We'll try. We will advocate as much as we can because we're a museum, but we're more than a museum. We try to impact lives, like so many other great organizations out there, to be impactful, to help connect people to the resources they need, the people that are supportive of them. So thank you for what you do. Thank you for your service, and thanks for just being a great veteran advocate and continuing to serve.
And it's people like Tim and Stockhands that I'm just taking a paycheck and going to events and meeting people. It's the volunteers. So if anyone that sees this wants to volunteer, please check us out. We're always needing more volunteers. LinkedIn or our website.
And the website address is
municipalcourt.org.
okay.
And check us out one time and see if it's something you can commit to. It's not always easy to volunteer your time during rush hour traffic to get to Delaware, but truly it's the volunteer that said, I've been there before, I don't want this to happen to somebody else, I know what it's like, let's see if we can do something about it. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Nate.
Appreciate it, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So this concludes our October Rally Point. Join us October 1st at the National Veterans Memorial and Museum in the evening for a film screening of the movie The Outpost. We've got some of the producers, some of the actors, and we've got Medal of Honor recipient Ty Carter, who was at the Battle of Kamdesh, who's also going to be participating in the event. On October 14th, we got a film screening of the movie Merging Vets and Players, which is another great film that talks about the challenges that veterans and professional athletes both have, because when you leave the service or you leave your professional sport or team, you no longer have that identity. You take your uniforms off, you lose your identity as, Sergeant so-and-so or a world-class baseball player, and both cohorts struggle with that. And together, Merging Vets and Players can bring the two communities together, professional athletes and veterans, to work through some of those challenges. And then join us on Veterans Day, the 11th of November at 11 a.m. for our Veterans Day ceremony. We've got a great speaker lined up, Mr. David Kim, West Point graduate, served in the Army for 5 years, and is the co-founder of Children of Fallen Patriots, a great organization that provides the scholarship education needs for post-high school kids of fallen service members who've either died or been killed in the line of duty. So thank you for joining us, and have a great day.